Australia. I'm in Sydney. If you want to see some of my pictures, check out my Instagram. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about bisexuality. In the part 1 video, I talk about my struggles in coming out to myself due to internalized bi-erasure. And a big part of the reason is how much bi-invisibility and even bi-phobia there is in society. From being called greedy to being told we don't even exist. I mean, hello, I'm right here. To being totally misunderstood and confused with other groups of people. And when it comes to media representation, it's either non-existent or we're hypersexualized, especially for women, or it's about a confused character discovering they're actually gay, particularly with male characters. Rather than talk about generalizations, I want to give a few examples of bi-erasure and bi-phobia that I've personally experienced. Obviously, they'll be more reflective of the female experience. Bisexual men and non-binary people will have different bi struggles to mine, and I'd love to hear your stories, so please share them with me in the comments. Sometimes bi-erasure is gender specific, like the idea that if a man claims to be bi, he's probably just gay and hasn't come out yet, and if a woman claims to be bi, she's probably sexually promiscuous and just doing it to attract men's attention. Other times, bi-phobia is universal, such as the idea that bi people don't even exist. A perfect example of this is a conversation I had at Christmas time about my grandma, who also happens to be bi. She's now married to a woman, but a family member was claiming that they couldn't possibly actually be a couple because this person knew for a fact that my grandma liked boys when she was younger. My explanation that it is possible to like both, and that I myself like men and women and other genders, though it didn't feel like the right time to add that, was met by stunned silence, followed by, are you sure? Let's talk again in 10 years and we'll see how you feel then. As if it was just some ridiculous phase I was going through which couldn't possibly last. This is just one example of so many. There was the time just recently when I was in the Philippines and asked someone what they thought about bisexuality, and they said, it's fine so long as you don't get married. Huh? Or the time I went to a meetup for lesbians and queer women. Someone was asking about the difference between bisexual and pansexual, which I explained in my Bisexuality part 1 video. So if you don't know the difference, make sure to check that out next. After a lengthy conversation about bisexuality in general, a lesbian woman piped up at the end with, but ultimately there are only 3 sexualities: lesbian, gay and straight, because who you end up with defines your sexuality. Now, aside from the fact that that completely erases non-binary genders and the fact that I'm polyamorous so probably won't end up with just one person, that's total bullshit, and it's a really damaging idea. Dating just one person doesn't negate previous relationships. It doesn't negate the attraction to multiple genders. I know so many monogamous couples who really struggle with bi-invisibility because people just make assumptions about their sexuality based on who they're dating, and once again seem to completely forget that bisexuality is a thing. Now, depending on context, someone's sexuality is more or less relevant. They can be really painful to have a big part of your identity completely erased like that, especially if it's by people you're close to. Being attracted to multiple genders, it can be hard enough to figure out one's own sexuality, and having people question us and our very existence does not help, especially when we're dealing both with straight people being queerphobic and with other queers. Many bi people do have a gender preference. It doesn't make them any less bi. In fact, most of the bisexual people I know either have a gender preference or have a pattern of dating one gender more often. A bit like how some people have a pattern of dating mostly blondes or mostly brunettes. There have been multiple charts, scales, tests to figure out exactly where on the bisexual spectrum people fall. One well-known one is the Kinsey scale, which is a 0 to 6 heterosexual to homosexual rating. I remember doing a quiz and got equal parts homosexual and equal parts heterosexual. The problem is, it's just not true. I'm not half homosexual and half heterosexual. I'm neither. I'm bi/pansexual. Sometimes people's gender preferences can change. For example, I know one woman who strongly identified as bi for a long time, but always thought she was going to end up with a man. She's now madly in love with a woman and in a long-term relationship with her, and has even started identifying more as gay because of it. People's sexuality can be fluid. Like this friend, I know other people who strongly identified as bi, but after years of dating just one person or just one gender, have started identifying more as gay or straight. But that doesn't negate the existence of bisexual people, nor does it make their sexuality, bi or otherwise, any less valid. People can choose whichever label they feel comfortable with. That may change over time or it may stay the same. Regardless, bisexuality is not just a phase. I think most people's sexuality fluctuates over time. And I mean sexuality in the broad sense, including both who we're attracted to and how sexual we feel, how much we want sex or don't. I'll be doing a video on that topic soon. At the end of my last video, I mentioned sometimes questioning my own sexuality within a split second as I kissed two people of two different genders I cared deeply about. Dating couples is not something all bisexual people do, by the way. That's another common misconception and negative stereotype. If you're a bisexual woman and you go on a dating app, you're almost guaranteed to get couples messaging you requesting threesomes. They're known as unicorn hunters, which makes us bifolk unicorns, mystical creatures people don't think exist. Navigating the dating world as a bisexual person is not always easy, despite the fact that in theory we have more choice. With so much bi-invisibility, it can be hard to signal one's bisexuality. I look quite femme, so most people assume I'm straight, especially as I do flirt with men. So signaling my queerness to women and other genders can be difficult. I then have to figure out if they're attracted to my gender and to me. It can be extra hard when traveling because everyone's so friendly and smiley, and it's really easy to misread signals in both directions. People don't realize I'm flirting and I don't realize they're not. Whoops. Despite doing 2 videos on the subject, I'm not actually a fan of the label bisexual or of having to use any label to describe my sexuality. But I do it because it's led to a sense of community and support. Finding other people with shared experiences and feeling less alone in constantly questioning my sexuality. Coming out quite late. Struggling to flirt. There are many more examples I could give about the joys and the struggles of being bisexual, but hopefully these videos have given you a little taste of what it's like for me. I've created these videos so that if you too are having similar struggles, know you're not alone. And if you're monosexual, i.e. only attracted to one gender, hopefully these videos have given you a little bit of insight about what it's like for those of us attracted to multiple genders. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter.